Hey y'all, good evening. How's everybody doing? Let me get on the live chat. Hibiscus, Sunnyside, Charlie Girl says. Jack's mom. How are y'all doing? Did y'all have a good day? Oh my gosh, this lip gloss has got all over my cigarette, my finger, and made it sticky. Hold on, I need a drink. Sunnyside, I'm making a cup of coffee. I was going to make some more coffee, and I was like, nah, because when I get off here, I'll probably go to bed. Look at those eyes. So pretty. Oh, thank you. I use this palette, y'all. I don't know if I like it or not. It's something to wear every now and then, I guess. Um, I mean, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, it's cute and stuff, but it'll be something I just wear every now and then, I guess. Let me tell y'all what that smart aleck said to me today. I was in there doing my eyeshadow, and he came in there and he said, "No wonder your leg hurts. Every time I come in here, you're standing in front of the mirror." I was like, "Look, I'm just trying out a makeup look. When you get new eyeshadow palettes, you want to use them. Crap." It does take a while to do my makeup, though. I have noticed. Let me tell you, I've been using my ring light in my bathroom. I have a makeup mirror, but it's not that great. I've been using my ring light in my bathroom. It's helped a lot. Jack's mom, it reminds me of a peacock. They're beautiful. I love peacocks. I want a peacock. I want a pair, a male and a female. Let's see. So we're going to read some ghost stories tonight. But before we get started, I want to tell y'all something about Gabby Petito. So 2 weeks before she disappeared, the cops was called on her and her boyfriend. Hey, Lisa. And it was over a domestic dispute. I watched a video earlier. So they were arguing at a grocery store, and some bystanders called the cops on them. And Gabby actually slapped him in the face, and he like pushed her face with his hand and stuff. But anyways, the cops didn't arrest anybody. Um, they just wrote in their report that there was like a mental health breakdown going on. And that's all I know about it. Oh, and the police are saying that he is a suspect now. Of course, we already knew that though. But anyhow, I found some. We'll talk about true crime in the morning. I found some creepy stories, and we're going to read some. The first one is called A Deadly Secret Wrapped in a Tarp. Hold on. There's no need to screen share. Sunny said, "Oh, Jack's mom, oh no, not a good sign for her. No." So we know that they hit on each other. Now, from what I watched, it said that she slapped him a couple good times. He probably deserved it. Probably deserved it. Okay. So the first story up, A Deadly Secret Wrapped in a Tarp. Okay, and these are stories like people have written themselves and submitted. This happened when I was a teenager, living on the outskirts of a Midwestern town with my uncle and his wife. Everything was boring back then. There was nothing to do for a girl who was homeschooled after her parents passed away. My uncle and aunt were great, as they often left me alone to get wasted. Where's my glasses? Okay. Um, Hold on. My uncle and aunt were great. They often left me alone to get wasted. Okay. Funny when I think of it now, because I sometimes broke into their stash and smoked a blunt here and there to pass the time. What I wasn't expecting were the fights that started up after I turned 15. My uncle started wailing on my aunt, but she was a big woman and she gave the same back. They blamed each other about the weed always disappearing, and for the life of me, I didn't know why they never suspected me, but I kept my mouth shut. After a particularly brutal fight one night, I woke up and saw that my uncle wasn't home. My aunt shrugged and said that he finally left her. From then on, it was awesome, even though I missed him. My aunt and I cooked together, shopped together, and really got to know each other. She even let me move into the abandoned trailer they had at the back of the property so I could have friends over, according to my aunt. I didn't have any friends, so I was kind of pissed with that statement, but still, it was great to have a place of my own at such a young age. The thing was, I could never get used to the smell. My aunt said that it was probably because of raccoons or possums nested there until she cleaned it up. After 2 weeks, it got to be too much. I told her that the smell shouldn't be building up, that it should have been going away by then. She shrugged and told me to use air fresheners, which only made the stench stronger, in my opinion. That was when the nightmares started, where my uncle appeared at the foot of my bed. I'd wake up screaming, but the next night the same nightmare returned. In each one, my uncle was pointing downwards and had blood dripping from the neck down. When I told my aunt, she froze for a second, but then she shook it off and said I was just experiencing separation anxiety. What happened next still chills my flesh. I was playing with the next door neighbor's dog who came from a mile away to have me throw a ball for him. The ball rolled under the trailer and the dog went under through a hole. He soon came out without the ball and yelping like he had been hit with something. I crawled under and saw the ball next to something wrapped in a tarp. Stupid me, I pulled at it. My uncle's face appeared under the flap, frozen in a terrified gasp, with his milky blue eyes wide open and speckled with blood. His neck was gaping, and I couldn't stop screaming. I backed out and raced after the dog. When I got to my neighbor's house and told him what happened, a cruel smile spread across his ugly face. He told me that he and my aunt knew that I was the one taking the weed, but it was the perfect opportunity to get rid of my uncle. I swore I'd keep the secret to myself, but I'm waiting for them to pass on before I tell the cops. Ooh, creepy, creepy story. Okay, let me look at the chat. Yeah, that's a creepy story. I hope it's not freaking true. Hey, Broken Justice. Okay, let's see what's next. Go back and get another one. Crap. Okay. What is next? A terrifying secret in the shed. My best friend Sasha committed suicide 5 years ago. At 27, she was an identical twin to Sarah. Even though we'd never been that close, Sarah and I soon gravitated towards each other in order to cope. We formed an even closer bond than the one I had with Sasha, which has made me feel a little guilty at times. Still, her parents were grateful for our new friendship, which helped with the grieving process. One thing has become a nagging issue, though. To this day, Sarah still doesn't like talking about Sasha and does not like to see any photos or videos of her twin. At first, I assumed it was the grief. I soon discovered how temperamental she could be. When her mother asked if I could help sort through Sasha's stuff, Sarah was annoyed. It went on over 4 weekends. Each week was harder and harder. Not only did I have to deal with the resurgence of grief, I had Sarah in my face. Every Friday night, I had to fend off Sarah's alcohol fueled phone calls and threats of never speaking to me again. It wasn't until the fourth weekend when I discovered why she was so hostile. It was while I sorted through a final box. Inside was a large bag filled with bundles of letters. Sarah's mom left the room, so I took the opportunity to check them out. They were all addressed to Sarah from Sasha. My blood ran cold when I opened one of them up. The writing was scrawled and erratic. It was a threat telling Sarah that it was time to go. Puzzled, I began checking the other letters. They were all the same, threatening Sarah to end it all, as there was only room in their family for one daughter. Becoming ill, I was then distracted by a photo. I screamed when I saw Sasha's lifeless body hanging in the family shed. I knew that Sasha had killed herself in that way in that location. The problem was, Sarah was in the photo, standing next to her sister and smiling. Millions of thoughts flooded my mind. If Sarah was being threatened, why was she the one still living? Then it hit me. Sarah was the one who died. The only reason we assumed the remaining twin was Sarah was the birthmark on her cheek, a pale silver crescent moon only a centimeter across. The fact that Sarah was a makeup artist for a film production company made perfect sense. My best my best friend killed her twin sister and made it look like a suicide and then took her place. That's creepy. That sounds like a movie I watched on Lifetime once. Jack's mom, oh my God, when I was a teenager, we emptied my mother's vodka bottle and put water back in it. She never caught on. Hey, I got busted doing that to some of my dad's liquor, Jack's mom. Like we drank so much of it, and then I filled it like half the bottle up with water, and I got busted. Lisa, sounds real. Yeah, these stories are supposed to be real. The ones that I'm reading, they're supposed to be. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Twisted, scary secrets between two sisters. I've always been afraid of my little sister. I know that sounds like I must be a wuss. It says the P word. Jackie is 2 years younger, and she's always been an introvert, but she sees things. Even now at 17, she is still tied to mom's apron strings, never leaves the house, and still sees things. Everyone thinks she is special. She always told crazy stories, and when we were younger, she sometimes got me in trouble by telling our parents the most bizarre things about what she saw. She lied a lot. I was always innocent, and she had to try and drag me into it. Dad told me one day that she had told him about an evil spirit in her room. Jackie would come down for breakfast in the morning with scratches on her back and face. She'd murmur to herself, and we could hear things like nasty demon. Mom was upset and took her to doctors who said that she was doing it to herself and was showing signs of schizophrenia. One time, Dad found bird beaks that were still dripping blood scattered and left in strange places around the house. They were stuffed under cushions, inside coffee cups, and poking out of the air vents. We followed the trail of tiny feathers and drops of blood all the way back to Jackie's room. He went nuts that day. I remember hearing Mom and Dad fight over what to do about Jackie. They set her down and asked her about the bird beaks. She shook her head violently, chirping like a bird, screeching until they got the medicine down her throat. We were all so terrified of her. I kept my door locked at all times. When I started having nightmares and passing out every time something happened, Jackie was always standing there, staring at me with her pale green eyes. Her messy orange hair always creeped me out, but when she took the scissors to it and did a freaky hack job, I wondered if I would be next. Mom was worried that I was going insane too, but when I turned 18, I decided to move out with my boyfriend. I'll never forget the last day when I was packing my bags and boxes. Jackie sidled up to me and handed me an envelope. She giggled and backed away as I opened it up. I froze. There were pictures she'd drawn of me scratching her face and torturing animals. I looked up in confusion and saw her pointing at me with an evil grin. You're the one, Denise. You're the demon. You come to me at night in your sleep. I didn't want to believe it, even though I did have problems with sleepwalking when I was little. She whispered in my ear as I fought back tears and disgust. Keep bringing me the baby birds, Denise. I like the crunch. If you don't, I'll tell, and you'll be taken away. I try to keep her happy, but now my boyfriend wakes up with scratches all over him. That is a creepy, creepy story. I used to sleepwalk when I was little. I used to be really bad for it. And I have sleepwalked a couple times as an adult. Lisa, Crazy Sister. Oh my, this would be a good movie. Yeah, it would be. Sunnyside. I used to be scared of my sister because she would sometimes sleepwalk. Hey, Red Rum. Yeah, I think I actually drove a vehicle one time when I was asleep. Yeah, I'm not sure. But in my dream, I dreamed that I drove. And I had been out in the truck that night because there was some melted chocolate in the truck. And when I woke up that morning, I had chocolate on my hands. So I had been in the vehicle. As I know of, I've not done that in a long time. Do y'all remember that case where that guy claimed that he was sleepwalking and he went to his in law's house and he stabbed them to death? Sleepwalking creeps me out. Scary. Yeah. I used to be really bad for it when I was little. They would have to put up like gates around the house and stuff. Sunnyside. That is possible. Yes. There's a Lifetime movie about that case I'm talking about. And his wife stood by his side even though he had murdered her parents. You remember that story, Sunnyside? It's a good movie. Really good movie. Okay, let's see what else we have. Um, Terror in the Woods. Let's read this one. For many years, my husband Alan, his brother Sean, and I enjoyed getting into the great outdoors, which includes a lot of hiking, fishing, especially for my brother in law, who considers himself a kind of expert in fly fishing. When we camped by a beautiful, secluded river last spring, Sean was ecstatic. Alan and I woke up early one morning, decided to go for a hike and do some wild strawberry picking. I love wild strawberries. Naturally, Sean declined as he wanted to try his luck again with fly fishing in the river. The day turned out to be glorious, so we decided to keep hiking and picking while Sean continued fishing. It was almost twilight when we returned to the camp. As soon as we arrived, I had a feeling something wasn't right. Our tents were undisrupted and nothing seemed out of place, apart from the fact that Sean was missing. Alan found his line and gear on the banks of the river and slowly panic started creeping in. We searched high and low well into the night using our flashlights. Just as we were about to give up and call the authorities, we heard yelling coming from the river. We scrambled down the mountain and past the tents, then skidded to a stop when we saw something emerging from the water. At first, it looked like a mud monster staggering out from the water and then falling to its knees. When Sean's voice groaned loudly, we knew that it was him. Alan yelled to me about getting a blanket while he ran over to his brother. On my way over with the blanket, I saw that Sean was completely naked. He was covered in mud, but when Alan told him to go with him to the river to wash it off, he screamed no. Alan and I looked at each other, not knowing what had happened, as Sean wouldn't speak after that. We wrapped him in the blanket and sat him in front of the fire. It took a while before he told us what happened. We had left to go hiking, and Sean had started setting up to fish. when he heard something in the middle of the river like a gurgling sound. Thinking that it was either a drowning animal or a freak whirlpool, he put on his waders and made his way into the water. He said that the last thing he remembered was being dragged under. While we listened to the story, he began to shudder and shake his head like he was trying to shake off a terrible memory. When we pressed him to go on, he finally blurted that he had been attacked by a monster. Alan and I looked at each other, obviously thinking the same thing, that Sean was hallucinating. We gave him a warm cup of cocoa and soon got him off to sleep. The next morning, Alan was able to take him to the edge of the river to wash the mud off. My body froze when Alan yelled for me to come over. I couldn't believe the horrible scratches, gouges, and bite marks on Sean's flesh. He looked like he was covered in bizarre markings. There were strange circular rashes on his torso, which Sean explained while sobbing that they were marks left by the monster's tentacles. There were strange scratches up and down his legs like he had been whipped by a cat o' nine tails, and many deep cuts. The freakish wounds were the bite marks, which looked more like he had been bitten by a large bird beak. As we cleaned him up and administered first aid, we heard a strange gurgling, bubbling sound coming from the river. Sean started screaming and racing up the mountain before he even got dressed. Alan jumped up and started packing our gear without even checking out the creepy sounds. He said to me, "We're not waiting to find out. Let's go." It wasn't long before we raced after Sean back to safety. All three of us still don't have the guts to go back and figure out what happened that day or what unholy creature lives in that river. It almost sounds like a squid. Squid have beaks, right? Oh my gosh, that would like totally freak me out. I would have been out of there that night. I wouldn't have been waiting till morning. Oh, come on. Okay, let's see. See what the chat's saying. Ambien make people do crazy stuff and not remember. I know. My mom's cousin, like, she takes that stuff and she fell down her stairs and everything. Basement stairs. It's a wonder if it didn't break her neck. My granny takes it and she's been known to sleepwalk and talk in her sleep, like, all the time. I used to take, what was it called? Seroquel, but sometimes that makes my legs jerk. I've not took it in a long time though, and that is so miserable when you get like restless legs. I hate that. Okay, let's see. Let's find another story. Walking the chilling path to the portal to hell. Oh my gosh. I nearly didn't share this story as I'm concerned about the effects in those who might be in the same position I was. Having isolated myself from friends and family after losing my job many years ago, I morphed into an angry woman. Slowly and surely, I descended into a mental state where fury and hatred colored my interactions with other people. What I'm about to share is more real than any of the haunted stories you might hear. It's much worse. Some say that it was a hallucination. Others say that I'm insane. Maybe it's both, but it did happen. It started when I had an argument with my neighbor where I blew my stack and threatened to deal with him. I felt like I'd been possessed by a demon, as I'm usually quite mild-mannered, so I left the house and went for a walk. There's a greenway close to where we live, and I soon found myself storming along the path as I swore and fumed. I didn't notice that the path wasn't gradually curving like it was supposed to. I was preoccupied with venomous hate. Every step filled my mind with obsession, murderous thoughts, like a mental hit list about who I wanted to hurt. Normally, I would have stopped in shock or thought that it was or thought it was the sunset, but my frame of mind propelled me forward. It was like I was being drawn into the pit of hell as terrifying images of torture, horror, and murder filled my head. As I got closer, I began to see balls of fire shooting out of the portal, landing several yards in front of me. They suddenly formed into flaming demons who encouraged me to keep going by waving and gesturing with glee. Usually I would turn and run at top speed, but I welcomed their presence as their evil energy fueled my fury. Passing each demon and feeling them file in behind me gave me an incredible sense of power and righteousness. Getting closer to the fiery portal, I had images in my mind of all people I wanted to inflict serious pain onto. I saw my neighbor scream in terror as the flames consumed him, and my boss crying and writhing in torturous agony. Laughing like a psychotic woman, I saw all the people in my life being picked off one by one, howling loudly. I could feel my slathering mouth hanging agape at all the hellish imagery, and my hands rubbing together excitedly. I looked into the portal and I felt the blistering heat on my face as millions of screaming souls became visible. One face stood out. It was my mother, crying and pleading with me to stop before being dragged into the void. Suddenly, it was as though a bolt of lightning shot through my body as my mother had passed away years before. I realized that I was allowing my twisted and angry thoughts to deliver me into the hands of the devil himself. Trying to pull away, I felt scorching hands pushing me forward as the demon screamed, "You must enter." Then I saw the most horrifying face I'd ever seen. It was the devil. He laughed as I struggled to pull back. The demons continued yelling and pushing me forward as I frantically dug my heels in, screaming and crying. In my mind, I screamed to the heavens, pleading for help and forgiveness, promising to change my ways. I knew that I had to make amends and forgive those who trespassed and hurt me. Then I saw them covered in light, imagining them lifting up and out of my murderous thoughts. I felt a cool breeze rush through my body and soul. Slumping to the ground, I heard the final deafening screams from the devil and his demons as I fainted away. When I came to, I realized that hell. I barely escaped hell and was granted heavenly reprieve as I wept tears of joy. Wow. Wow. Hey, I don't know if I believe that or not, but that'd be scary as hell. Scary as hell. Let me look at the chat here. Wait, not Tramadol. I meant Trazodone. Oh, I've took that Trazodone before. That's a sleeping pill, right, Jack's mom? Let me catch my chat up here. I take gabapentin. Oh, is that Neurontin hibiscus? So, if I take those, like, they give me like a burst of energy, and I just like want to clean, clean, clean. And that's not good. Stay up on my leg that much. My leg has been giving me a lot of problems lately. At least I feel fortunate. I don't take any meds. Well, I take high blood pressure medicine and a couple more things. Cymbalta, some kind of fluid pill. Okay. Let's see what else we have. My night terrors are real. Since childhood, I've had to deal with real entities who come stalking from my frequent night terrors. It was so annoying and disappointing when the elders in my family tried to tell me that they were just nightmares. I felt that they were keeping secrets from me, palming them off as ghost stories or an overactive imagination. Some of the visitations included people, strange creatures, and even aliens. Most of them were terrifying and evil. By the time I was 10 years old, I'd learned how to leave my body in an attempt to try and escape their attacks. I'd hover over the bed, looking down on my body, frozen in terror with my eyes wide open, straining to snap out of it. Once I hit my teens, I realized that I was leaving my body vulnerable to possession by the various evil entities. One night when I was 17, I was fighting for my body as the spirit of a nasty creature hovered over the bed. At first, I felt the familiar tingling up and down my spine as sleep paralysis kicked in, followed by the strange visions. I could see an ocean of swarming bodies melding into infinity, with the images of a reptilian monster coming closer. I saw that it was the ghost of a shape-shifting creature hovering over me, waving its hands over my face furiously. I felt my muscles lock as my eyes opened up to seeing the ghostly monster concentrating on ripping my soul out. The fear of seeing such a beast included the fluids running through its ethereal something body made me zoom into space. As soon as I got out of my body, I realized that my mortal life was in danger, so I quickly flew back into the room. Hovering over the bed, I saw that the spirit wasn't aware that I had left my body as it continued to wave its hand. I saw my inert and wide eyed body as the monster hunched over me, increasing the speed of his waving. At a loss as to what I could do, I called on my higher self to help, even though I didn't know exactly what that meant. As soon as I thought that, a bright orange light penetrated the room, which distracted the monstrous spirit. I saw it slowly turn around and growl at my higher spirit, which was a large ball of orange light floating next to me. What frightened me more was that the monster then turned to look at me, hovering over my still frozen body. I saw the entirety of his reptilian soul, like a shell of luminescent green light, transparent like a ghost and deadly. I heard an unearthly howl as it turned back to my body and tried to take possession while the orange light buzzed. It shot out a beam of orange light like a saber or bolt of lightning, penetrating the ghostly shell of the monster. The orange lightning splintered throughout the shell, making the monster roar in agony as it started to dissolve. I heard a voice command me telepathically, "Go back to your body and don't leave again without me." Not having to be told twice, I zoomed back in and blinked frantically as I watched the strange war raging above me. I could see my higher self as a yellow angel, shooting out beams of energy which continued to penetrate the ghost. When I asked, "What is it?" I heard my higher self answer, "A demonic shapeshifter from another dimension." With one more blast of light, the monster yelped and obliterated into a billion pieces, leaving a green mist behind. Finally, I was unable to lock my muscles and sit up. I saw the mist dissipate and the gold light slowly ebb away. I called out as I cried, "Thank you," even though there were no more words. I was bathed in warmth and love. That was only one of many experiences I've had with night terrors, which continue to plague me to this day. It's hard to believe terrifying stories where ghosts and monsters attack the innocent, but once you experience it yourself, the whole world changes forever. Wow. Hey, I believe in, demons. There is evil demons. The Bible speaks about it. Let me catch my chat up here. Hibiscus, not much help with my fibromyalgia either. I didn't like Cymbalta. That's why they gave me Cymbalta, was for like my leg pain. Um, and my leg really, I thought it was working. It hadn't been bothering me that much. But the last couple days, like the bone in my leg has started to move again. Like when I turn around or something and it hurts like crap. That's happened a lot, but it's a lot more painful now. I'm going to have to get into the orthopedic, see what they can do, get my surgery done or something, because it totally, totally sucks. Okay, let's see what else we have. That one was a long one I just read. A terrifying plea from beyond the grave. Let's read this one. I'm going to turn the camera off and have me a cigarette. I never did like being at graveyards after dark, did y'all? It's scary. Growing up, our family farm backed onto the grounds of an old penitentiary that was finally closed down and vacant. As a child, I was warned to stay away from that part of our property, and Dad even built a high wall to block it out. Seeing as our farm was 22 acres with lots to see and do, I wasn't interested, so it wasn't a big deal to me. It was a nightmare I had on a winter's night when I was 14, which was the spark that ignited my curiosity. I dreamed that a frightening monster chased me down a dark corridor, looking very much like an Egyptian mummy. His muffled moaning was creepy, but the eyes looking out from the palms of his outstretched hands terrified me. When I woke up, I felt a strong sense of fascination mixed with horror, that it had something to do with the prison. It had been snowing, and there was at least 5 inches of snow on the ground when I decided to check it out. I crept along the wall and kept going until I found a stile, then climbed over and landed on the grounds of the prison. I immediately felt like I was walking into a dead zone. The atmosphere was so different that it seemed like I was in another dimension, or at least a parallel world. I can't say that. As I walked across the field, which soon stretched into an asphalt compound, I saw the tall, rusted wire fencing. It didn't take long to find a hole in the fence, so I stepped through and made my way to the back of the building. I had to try several doors before I found one that was unlocked, but I hesitated as the fear was growing. The handle was freezing, but I attributed that to the fact that the temperature was in single digits and snowing. After a few pulls, I was able to wrench it open. I looked and saw the dark interior and littered floors. I took a few careful steps and was struck by the paint hanging off the walls and ceiling in strips trailing on the floor. There were several upturned chairs and tables here and there as I wandered through the huge building and halls. Suddenly, I heard the sound of metal doors clanging and slamming shut, and I realized that I'd been stupid to come. The thing was, I couldn't remember exactly where I'd come in, so I started to do my best to retrace my steps. I heard moaning that was creepy and familiar. I didn't start running until I heard fast shuffling across the floor. When I turned around, there was nothing there, but I turned back and continued running just in case. Then the moaning got louder as several doors started opening and slamming in the distance, so I bolted for the door. I felt that it was stuck, and I wasn't even sure if it was the door I'd used to get in, so I ran off to find another. I could hardly breathe due to the rising panic, and I screamed when I heard the shuffling behind me getting closer. Spinning around to see what it was, I was angry to see nothing was there, so I yelled, "Who's there? Who are you?" I was even angrier when the building suddenly grew silent, so silent that it nearly hurt my young ears. Turning around and stomping off, I screamed again when I saw a large piece of wallpaper unfurl from the wall. Running faster now, I tried every door and window I came across, but they were stuck and refused to budge. Dried pieces of paint began to drop from the ceiling all around me. It was so dark that I was now running blindly. I didn't see the chair as I stumbled over it and hit my head on the floor. Um, hit my head on the floor. It was a while before I sat up stunned. I didn't see the shuffling apparition coming straight at me. I heard the moaning getting louder and louder while the shuffling began to slow down. Then I saw bandaged feet. They were right in front of me. When I looked up, I realized I was looking at the man from my nightmare. Trying desperately to scramble backwards, I felt the chairs against my back and jamming into the wall behind me. The monster moved towards me as I tried to get away, but I didn't want to stand up in case he grabbed me. Panting for breath, I tried to roll left and right in order to try to crawl to a position where I could get up and run. The problem was, everywhere I tried to go, the monster stepped in the way, moaning loudly and waving his hands. I could see the eyes on his palms blinking at me as they waved past my face. I began to cry, helpless and hopeless. He fell to his knees in front of me, reached his hand out, and held his palms up so the eyes were close to my face. I saw his dark mouth moving under the bandage, opening up and moaning loudly as his palms clasped my face. Screaming in terror, I felt the eyes melding with mine in an unholy visual union, creating a kind of second sight. I was able to see the monster's reality, and I was shocked to find myself watching his own life flashing in my mind. There was a young man who was mute and considered by the community as mentally handicapped and dangerous. He was blamed for a crime he didn't commit and then incarcerated, and often vilified and tortured by the wardens. The man was kept in solitary confinement for long stretches at a time, and the treatment made him lose his mind. Even though he was mute, he was incredibly intelligent, but the madness soon corrupted him and made him insane. After decades of torture and neglect, he finally succumbed to exposure when he was wrapped up and left for dead. The cruel wardens were assisted by some of the inmates who bound him in bed sheets and threw him down a well. I remembered seeing a well as I crossed the field before I got to the compound, but then I saw another flash. I could see the man trying to unravel the sheets, and he shredded them in the process while trying to climb out. His thoughts then penetrated my brain, telling me, "Feel what I see what I feel. Tell them I'm good, I'm good." I screamed, "Who are you?" as I cried for him as well as myself. He then told me, "I don't remember." I asked, "How can I tell them if I don't know who you are?" I heard moaning and sobbing as the shuffling began. I was now standing next to the chair and saw him shuffling away from me, still moaning and crying. I yelled, "Please tell me, I can help you." Then he disappeared. I jumped when a nearby door suddenly opened. It took me a while for me to decide to leave, as I wondered if I should go and try to find him, but then thought better of it. I quickly got out of there and made my way home. Then I tried to conduct research through many avenues with no results. When I told my parents, they said that it was just a dream and I was grounded for a month, but I'll always remember him. Oh, that is so, so creepy. I would have been scared to death. I would have been frozen in fear, probably peeing my pants. I wonder if people years ago that were mute actually had a form of autism as we know it today. Probably. If you had anything wrong with you back in the old days, I mean, you were considered to be like crazy and a freak. Isn't that sad? They used to treat people with mental illnesses and like crap. People with autism. Of course, they probably didn't know what autism was back then, but they treated them like crap too. The mental institutions were horrible. They would hose them down, strip them down naked, hose them down with cold water, from like a big water hose. Throw that lice stuff all over them. Lock them, in straight jackets, naked, and everything. Put away in mental homes. Yeah. Yeah. If somebody was born with something wrong with them, mm, they were automatically put in mental institutions. And they were horrible. Horrible. Today, when I was looking for ghost stories, guys, I was trying to look for some Victorian ghost stories, and I learned that like in the Victorian era, they always told ghost stories on Christmas. Did you guys know that? They would read ghost stories like on Christmas Eve, Christmas night. That sounds kind of weird to me to read ghost stories like on Christmas Eve. They did things different back then. Let's see. Let's find us one more to read. Then I'm going to get off here. Voices Behind the Wall, she's doing a stream. I think it's done started. Something about Dawn Wells. I'll have to go back and watch that. Plus, American Horror Story comes on tonight, guys. So I'm going to watch that at 10 o'clock. Have you guys been watching that? American Horror Story double feature. Let's read The Curse of the Witch. Then I'm going to get off here. Y'all tell Christmas, like, ghost Christmas stories, Sunnyside? My uncle had brain damage at birth. My grandmother refused to put him in an institution. He was nonverbal. Yeah, I don't blame her. They were treated awful. Awful. Okay. The Curse of the Witch. I've always had a deep love for nature and the outdoors, so I was thrilled when we moved to the country. My husband, Ron, had inherited the property after his grandmother passed away several months earlier. The property sat on over 10 acres, with at least 3 acres covered in thick brush in a dense forest. We thought it was odd when his parents declined our invitation to the housewarming party, saying they were sick. Ron had been talking to them on the phone for 10 minutes before he invited them, and they seemed perfectly fine. Everyone else was eager to attend, and we spent several days cleaning up and preparing for the party. That is, until they turned up. Every friend and family member advised that they felt strange once they arrived. My brother brought a friend along who happened to be a medium, and she was terribly agitated when they came in. She muttered something, and I pulled her aside to ask what she had said, but she was very nervous and shaken badly. The medium blurted, "This land is cursed." I was shocked when she advised both of us to sell the property and take whatever price was offered. Then she begged my brother to take her home, and they were soon followed by our other guests who were all freaked out. Ron and I stood in the kitchen, looking at all the food and laughing at the medium's absurd statement. We had never felt anything creepy, and we wondered if it was an elaborate hoax to get us to sell at a cheap price. It wasn't until 2 days later, when I was taking our 2 corgis for a walk, when my hair on my neck prickled. I was surprised when both dogs started growling before racing all the way back to the house, leaving me alone. Something told me to keep going, even though I was shaking with fear. Then I saw a headstone under some bushes. I pushed the bushes and leaves aside to reveal an elaborate headstone with a pentagram above the name. For sake of privacy and a strong sense of fear, as we still live on the property, I'll keep the name a secret. There's a good reason why we stayed, which I'll explain later. What happened next still gives me the creeps. I decided to cover the headstone back up. When I stood up, a strong feeling of being watched came over me. Slowly turning around, I was shocked to see a hunched figure several feet away, watching me intently. It seemed to be an old woman, totally dressed in black, which included a fedora hat, a heavy coat, and a wool shawl. I thought it was odd that she was dressed for winter, as we were in the middle of a summer heat wave in August. Normally, I'd say hello and ask if she was lost, but it seemed that this was not a normal woman or a normal situation. She suddenly angrily yelled out a sentence in a foreign language. Then she turned around and raced into the forest. Against my impulsion to follow her, I hastily made my way back home and decided to keep the event to myself. Ron saw that something was wrong, so I pretended to be sick, going to bed early and falling into a dreamless sleep. The next morning, when he went out into the chopwood, I called my mother in law to see if she knew anything. At first, she was hesitant, but I soon had her talking. I learned that I wasn't the only one to have seen the old woman. She told me the old woman was a witch. Apparently, the witch had lived on the property decades before Ron's grandparents even bought the property. It dawned on me that the witch was dead and that I'd stumbled across her grave the previous day. Ron's mother went on to say that she had never been happy growing on the property, seeing as it was cursed. When I pressed for more information, she suddenly closed up and told me that I needed to get a priest. Then I remembered the medium, so I called my brother, but he said that she refused to have anything to do with him. Even an intensive internet search yielded zero information, so I tried to forget it until I saw her again. It was later the same evening when I was doing the washing, and I noticed something outside under the oak tree. The dogs were going crazy, barking, growling, but they wouldn't come outside with me, so I went alone. Ron was snoring in his armchair, and I was brave enough to investigate on my own, even though I was afraid. I approached the oak tree, yelling, "Who's there?" with the broom in my hand. I saw a shadow behind the tree. As I raced around, I slammed into the woman, who was very much flesh and blood, not a ghost, or so I thought. Her glistening black eyes shone out from under the brim of her hat, and she shrieked so loud I thought I was dying. Then she snatched the broom from my hands, threw it into the bushes behind her, and pointed a bony finger at me. I put up my hands defensively and cried out, "Please don't curse me." Then she cackled and her eyes flashed red. A searing bolt of pain went through my head, much worse than any migraine I'd suffered before that night. I dropped to the ground as I was writhed around in a terrifying agony, barely noticing that she was dragging me away. I felt the bumps of the ground along with sticks and stones, finally realizing that she was dragging me to the forest. Even though I was in intolerable pain, I screamed and did my best to fight and escape, but she was powerful. I pleaded with her, but she wouldn't listen until finally she stopped, right in front of her tombstone in the bushes. Somehow I knew that she was going to take me to the underworld, so I kicked and fought hard enough to break free. I stood up. She grabbed my wrist as she muttered an evil spell through gritted and gnashing teeth. Something. I saw her teeth were like jagged rocks. Her eyes were still glowing red like coals in an unholy fire. I continued to plead. "Please, please. I didn't mean any harm. What do you want?" She stopped and stared intently. I felt many roots coming out of the ground, creeping up my ankles to my knees. Now I was crying uncontrollably. She leaned forward and said in broken English, "Forest is mine. You no come here no more. Is mine." Pointing her bony finger hard into my breastbone, I realized what had to be done. I nodded furiously. Um, okay, I will, I promise. I meant it and I kept my promise. I also convinced Ron to do the same to this day. The curse is like a coiled snake, waiting for anyone to step foot into the forest where the witch resides, waiting to drag any trespasser into the underworld. That's supposed to be a true story now. Hey, nothing surprises me. I do believe in evil spirits. I do believe that there can be ghosts. Hey, Rocky Renee, welcome to Southern Royalty. Hey, Sapphire, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, guys, that was the best story, I think. The last one that I just read. Anyways, I guess that's enough of our ghost stories for tonight. What are y'all going to do? I'm going to watch American Horror Story at 10. If y'all are not watching it, this season's good. It's called Double Feature. It is so good. I've missed like 2 episodes of it, and it's not on demand. Only the first and second episode is. I missed the third and fourth one, I think. I'll have to somehow watch that. I'm also going to try to listen to Voices Behind the Wall and see what her stream about Dawn is tonight. There's always some kind of drama going on with old Donny boy. I saw someone calling him Teflon Don. They used to call John Gotti that because none of the charges would stick on John Gotti. So they called him Teflon Don. He was always found not guilty. Well, until his last trial, Then he was booked and cooked. Sunny said, I haven't been watching. You haven't been watching? Let's go over and see what's going on. Before I get off here, see what she's talking about. See what's going on tonight. The Wells Family Horror. The never-ending horror story. Sexual assault and domestic violence trigger warning. I never put that in my titles. Let's see what she's saying. Let me see.
Probably all of the family all together should probably just not watch my channel.
Okay, they just started. So I guess they're going to be talking about Don and his stepsisters. Rocky Renee, check your email. Oh, okay. I will. As soon as I get off here. I promise. I will. I don't have my phone out here, I don't think. No, I don't have either phone out here. But as soon as I get off here, I will check it. Well, guys, thanks for listening to me tonight. I think I'm going to get off here and go check out Voices Behind the Wall live stream. See what old Donnie Boy's been up to. I'm so sick of him, guys. I really am. I'm sick of hearing, and I'm sick of hearing about his stepsisters too. Like, I hate what he did to them, but hey, I had it done to me too. I'm just sick of hearing about it. Do we got to talk about it? Let's just talk about Summer. Like they put all the focus on them. I feel like, what in the hell have I done here? Okay. Oh my gosh, I've got something else pulled up here. Lord have mercy. Oh, Renee, don't put your phone number in the chat. Some weirdo will get it. I don't got a piece of paper. I would write it down. I will email you. I'll check my email as soon as I get off of here. Let me see if I can. I'm going to erase your phone number. Hold on. So it won't show up in the replay. Or you can do it. I'm going to erase your phone number. Hold on. Let me mute. Hold on. Did you erase it, girl? It's all good. I will block them, she said. Okay, girl. Okay. Just be careful. Yeah, retract that. Be careful on here what you share because there's a lot of nuts on here. And be careful who all you trust on here. Because some people, they will act like they're just so nice until you do something they disagree with, something little, and they turn out to be psycho. Yes, I included it in the email. Okay, good. Yeah, you got to be careful on here. Like, we're all cool here on this channel. But there's a lot of weirdos. Like that weirdo that said he won my eyes when I died. I'm awful about checking email, so I said text me. Okay, yeah, I am too. I'm surprised an email went through. Mine's about full. Gosh, I've got water everywhere. All over my mouse. It leaked from my drink. Look at me. You're not a country person unless you drink out of a mason jar, yeah. Best way to drink pop is in a mason jar with ice. You need to join our Michael Swing group. And Jenna, where's that at? Where's that group at? If it's on Facebook, I never get on Facebook. Sonny said, what? Now that's creepy. Yeah, some weirdo named Jeffrey come in here. Well, a few live streams ago when I was on camera, and he's like, I like your eyes. Can I have them when you die? Yeah. And he was probably just trolling me. But then again, it could have been some psycho that really meant that. Who knows? It reminded me of that movie, See No Evil, with Kane in it. He'd kill those people and take their eyeballs out. There's some real weirdos on here, y'all. Anyways, everybody have a good night. Love y'all. Hearts. I'll see y'all in the morning. Talk about some crime and coffee. Be safe. Be kind. Peace. Good night, guys. Sweet dreams. Don't be scared tonight now. Don't let the boogeyman get y'all.